Guyen put down the keyboard in his hands, his brow slightly furrowed. As a software engineer who worked from home, the doorbell was the most discordant note in his daily routine. It represented an unexpected interruption of his order. He walked over and looked through the peephole. A strange woman in a bright yellow dress stood outside. She was holding a white ceramic plate, a smile so brilliant it was almost blinding on her face. Guyen hesitated for a moment, but still opened the door. "Hello." The woman's voice was as bright as her dress. "My name is Ning Xiang. I just moved in yesterday, right across the hall." She offered the plate forward. "I made some brownies with walnuts. Just a little something for us to meet." Guyen's gaze fell on the plate of brownies. The rich aroma of chocolate mixed with the smell of butter rushed into his nostrils. He didn't like sweets, and he disliked this kind of sudden social interaction even more. "Thank you, but I don't really eat sweets," he politely refused, without making any move to step aside. The smile on Ning Xiang's face froze for a split second, but immediately returned. "No problem. I'll bake something savory next time." As she spoke, with lightning speed, she shoved the entire plate into Guyen's arms. Then, like a little rabbit that had completed its mission, she turned and ran, quickly slipping into the apartment opposite and gently closing the door. The whole process was as smooth as flowing water, giving Guyen no chance to refuse. Guyen stood where he was, holding a still warm plate and that lingering, cloying sweet scent. He looked down. The brownies were baked with care, the surface glossy, the walnuts scattered evenly. He sighed and closed the door. The order of his life, it seemed, had been torn open by a small rift, starting today. His heart skipped a beat. It couldn't be her again, could it? He looked through the peephole, and sure enough, it was Ning Xiang. This time she had changed into casual clothes and was holding an insulated container. Guyen took a deep breath and pretended not to hear. He thought this would make her back down. However, after the doorbell rang persistently 3 times, Ning Xiang's clear voice came from outside. "Guyen, are you home? I made some borscht. Didn't you say last time you don't like sweet things? This one is savory." Her voice wasn't loud, but it was exceptionally clear in the quiet hallway. Guyen's head was splitting. He walked to the door and said through it, "Thanks, but I've already eaten." "Oh, is that so?" Ning Xiang's voice sounded a little disappointed. "Then I'll just leave it at the door for now. You can have it when you're hungry. I simmered it on low heat for a long time. It's very comforting." After she spoke, there was silence from outside. Guyen stood behind the door for a while, before slowly pulling it open. On the doormat, an insulated container sat securely. Next to it was a sticky note with a smiley face drawn on it, and the words, "Please enjoy." Resigned to his fate, he picked up the container and went inside. For the next few days, Ning Xiang was like a precision timepiece. Today it was pumpkin pie, tomorrow roasted chicken wings, and the day after, homemade jam. Her excuses were bizarrely varied. The oven was preheated, so I might as well use it. The chicken wings at the supermarket were buy one get one free, too good a deal to pass up, and I made a lot this weekend, so I'm sharing some with you. Guyen used every excuse he could think of to politely decline. "I'm on a diet. I've been having stomach problems recently. I'm allergic to that." Ning Xiang would always say, "Oh," with a look of sudden realization, only to return the next day with something new. Her enthusiasm was like an inexhaustible source of energy, making Guyen's social barriers seem pale and feeble. Just as he was about to break down, his phone vibrated. It was a video link from his childhood friend, Lin Feng, with a line of text attached. "Bro, check this out. Is this blogger your neighbor?" Guyen clicked on it. The video's title was Vlog, 100 Ways to Win Over the Handsome Guy Across the Hall. In the video, Ning Xiang was facing the camera, excitedly showing off the bento box she was going to give her target neighbor today, and the background behind her was unmistakably Guyen's own dark gray door. The expression on Guyen's face froze instantly. So, none of this was about being neighborly. This was a long premeditated offensive. He finally understood that behind Ning Xiang's seemingly innocent gestures was a precise combat plan. He wasn't a neighbor. He was the target. A sense of being offended welled up inside him. He decided to activate defensive mode. That noon, he ordered a spicy numbing hot pot and wrote in the notes, "Make it so spicy, I question my existence. Add extra chili." He wanted to use this self-destructive method to declare his preference for strong flavors and completely put a stop to Ning Xiang's culinary offensive. When the delivery arrived, he deliberately lingered at his door for a moment longer. Sure enough, the opposite door cracked open. Gu Yin pretended not to see, carrying the glistening red bucket of spicy hot pot back into his apartment. He could even feel the scorching gaze on his back. However, half an hour later, the doorbell rang. Gu Yin opened the door to find no one there, only a bag on the floor. He picked it up and saw an exquisite vegetable salad and a bottle of iced water. There was another sticky note on the bag, in Ning Xiang's delicate and cute handwriting. Eating too spicy is bad for your stomach. This will help cool you down. Gu Yin clutched the note, so angry he was speechless. This woman was practically his nemesis. The next day, Gu Yin printed a sheet of A4 paper with bold black letters that read, "All food sharing is declined. Thank you for your cooperation." Then he neatly taped it to his door. He thought this white flag would surely do the trick. In the afternoon, he went out to throw away the trash and found the paper on his door was gone. In its place was a colorful cartoon sticker of a cat giving a thumbs up with the words, "Stay energetic today, too." Gu Yin was about to go crazy. He even began to make himself look unkempt, deliberately wearing old, pilled pajamas and sporting a messy bedhead that looked like a bird's nest to get his deliveries. He thought that any woman with a sense of aesthetics would surely be deterred by the sight of him. As it turned out, he ran into Ning Xiang in the hallway. She was holding a huge cardboard box. "Gu Yin, what a coincidence." She smiled as brightly as ever. "I bought some new loungewear, but I got the wrong size. I think it should fit you. Just consider it an apology for the trouble last time." Without giving him a chance to refuse, the box of fashionable loungewear was thrust into his arms. Holding the box, Gu Yin felt like a prey that had been cornered step by step, finally falling into a trap. He had to take the initiative and completely extinguish Ning Xiang's aspirations. He called his childhood friend, Lin Feng. "Come over this weekend and help me put on a show," Gu Yin said concisely. On the weekend, Lin Feng arrived as promised. The two of them stood in the hallway, their voices just loud enough for the person across the hall to hear. "I say, Yin, why haven't you found a girlfriend yet?" Lin Feng's voice was full of dramatic flair. "What kind of girl do you even like? Give me some criteria." Gu Yin cleared his throat and began his own performance. "I'm not asking for much. I just like the clingy type who knows how to act cute with a soft, sweet voice. The type I hate the most is someone like Ning Xiang. Too forward, too domineering, too aggressive. I can't stand it at all." After speaking, he deliberately glanced toward the opposite door. In the crack of the door, a shadow seemed to flicker. Gu Yin gloated inwardly. She should give up now, right? Liking someone clingy and cute is the complete opposite of a female warrior like you. However, the next day, when he opened his door, he was utterly dumbfounded. Ning Xiang was standing at his doorstep, wearing a pink floral dress, her soft hair draped over her shoulders. When she saw Gu Yin, she instantly lowered her head, wringing the hem of her dress with both hands, and said in a voice as faint as a mosquito's buzz, a voice Gu Yin had never heard before, "Ji Gu Yin, good morning." That voice was as soft as cotton candy. Gu Yin froze. Seeing no reaction from him, she took a few mincing steps closer and spoke again, a hint of grievance in her voice. "I made some small cakes. Would you like to try one?" Gu Yin looked at her floral dress, which resembled a set of curtains, and her clumsy, coy, and dependent act, and felt his temples begin to throb. It seemed she had misunderstood something. She thought he liked a style, not a person. This misguided romantic pursuit, far from ending, had just entered an even more absurd stage. Gu Yin felt like he had just dug himself an even bigger hole. He was now not only the target, but also her style director. He just wanted to scream at the sky. Today's theme was innocent schoolgirl. A white shirt, a pleated skirt, and twin ponytails. She hugged her books and bumped into Gu Yin in the hallway, blushing as she said, "Senior, I can't solve this problem. Could you teach me?" Gu Yin pointed expressionlessly at the book in her hands. "Advanced mathematics. I'm not very good at it either." Tomorrow's theme was gentle wife. A beige knit cardigan and an apron. She held a bowl of soup and said timidly, "I made some soup. I don't know if you'll like it." Gu Yin looked at her flat shoes, which were clearly for decoration, and the heels so thin they looked like they were about to snap, and said nothing. Every one of Ning Xiang's attempts landed squarely on Gu Yan's minefield. Her direct approach had turned into a clumsy, awkward imitation. Gu Yan should have felt gratified that his target was finally backing down. But strangely, he wasn't happy at all. Watching her try so hard to play a role that didn't belong to her, watching the light in her eyes gradually become cautious, a strange sense of irritation and pity grew in his heart. He started complaining frequently to his childhood friend, Lin Feng. "You have no idea what she wore today. She looked like a doll cut out from an old tablecloth. Her voice, I suspect she's pinching her throat when she talks. It gives me goosebumps." Lin Feng gloated on the side. "Isn't this exactly what you wanted? She's changing herself according to your preferences. You should be happy." Gu Yan froze. Was this the result he wanted? He just wanted her to stop pursuing him, but he never thought about wanting her to become someone else. The girl in the yellow dress with a bright smile who shoved a brownie at him and ran away. And this girl now, in a floral dress, timid and shrinking. Were they really the same person? He realized that he kind of missed the aggressive Ning Xiang from the beginning. The thought, once it appeared, startled even himself. The computer screen went black in an instant. The meeting was interrupted. The power was out. Gu Yan fumbled for his phone and turned on the flashlight. He didn't like the dark, especially this kind of complete, sudden darkness, which gave him a suffocating feeling of being abandoned by the world. His social anxiety would be infinitely magnified in enclosed and dark environments. He took a few deep breaths and decided to take the stairs to go down and check the situation. Just as he opened his door, he saw the door opposite also open. Ning Xiang was also holding her phone. When she saw him, she was clearly taken aback for a moment, then habitually tried to put on that gentle smile. "Gu." Before she could finish, the elevator indicator light also went out. The two turned their heads at almost the same time, then realized a terrible fact. They had both subconsciously walked towards the elevator and were now trapped in this narrow hallway space. There were no windows here, only two closed elevator doors and the sign for the emergency exit. The air seemed to freeze in an instant. Gu Yan's breathing started to become rapid. He leaned against the wall, feeling his palms sweating. He hated this feeling, hated this kind of uncontrollable accident. Just as he was about to have an episode, a soft light came on. It was Ning Xiang. She took a small emergency light from her large tote bag and hung it on a hook on the wall. The orange-yellow light instantly dispelled some of the darkness and also warmed the cold air. She wasn't boisterous like usual, nor did she continue to play that gentle role. She just silently took a bottle of water from her bag, handed it to Gu Yan, and then leaned against the other wall and sat down. "Don't be afraid. The building management will come to fix it soon." Her voice returned to normal, clear and calm. She seemed to have also forgotten about her quest to win him over. In the darkness, she began to speak in a low voice. "Let me tell you, I messed up baking a cake again yesterday. I mixed up the sugar and the salt and baked a sea of salt cake. My cat took one sniff and ran away." She talked about her various baking failures, her tone filled with self-deprecation and a little embarrassment. Gu Yan listened quietly. He discovered that the darkness seemed to cut off all external labels and identities. She wasn't that blogger with endless energy, nor was she that clumsy imitator. She was just an ordinary girl who told bad jokes and was a little cute. In this environment, Gu Yan's heart strangely settled down. For the first time, he wasn't offended by her proximity. After an unknown amount of time, the power came back on. The moment the lights came on, both of them blinked, a little unaccustomed to the brightness. Gu Yan looked at Ning Xiang. Her face still held the smile from her storytelling. As if by some strange impulse, he took the initiative to speak. "That molten chocolate lava cake you mentioned earlier, how do you make it?" This was the first time he had asked a question that had nothing to do with defense and rejection. Gu Yan no longer saw Ning Xiang's every appearance as an attack. He began to unconsciously wait at the door, anticipating that familiar figure. She still brought him food, but no longer deliberately feigned any particular style. She went back to wearing simple t-shirts and jeans, and her smile returned to its initial brilliance. Gu Yan started to exchange a few more words with her. "The grilled wings today taste good. This soup is a bit bland. Ning Xiang listened intently every time, like a student waiting for a teacher to grade their homework, and then adjusted her menu. One time, Guyen saw her struggling up the stairs with a heavy bag of flour, panting. Without much hesitation, he walked over and took it from her hands. "Let me," he said. Ning Xiang froze for a moment. Then her eyes crinkled into a smile, revealing two small canine teeth. "Thank you." At that moment, Gu Yin felt as if the sunlight had poured in from the end of the corridor. He began to recall the moments spent with Ning Xiang during his sleepless nights. Her straightforward enthusiasm, her clumsy attempts to please, the sound of her voice telling stories in the dark. These scenes replayed in his mind like a movie. He had to admit that he was falling for her. This realization terrified him, yet it also brought a secret thrill of joy. He even began to consider whether he should take the initiative. Perhaps he could ask her to a movie, or ask if she was free on the weekend. Just as he was gathering the courage to take that step, a chance discovery brutally dragged him down from the clouds. That day, Ning Xiang came to his apartment to borrow the printer and left her phone in the living room. Gu Yin inadvertently glanced at the lit-up screen, where a message from her best friend had popped up. Xiang, your boyfriend next door video series data has exploded. The fans are all saying it's so sweet. They're going crazy for it. I told you this topic would be a hit. Boyfriend next door, video series. Topic would be a hit. Every word was like a cold awl, stabbing fiercely into Gu Yan's heart. So, from beginning to end, it had all been just a performance for online traffic. All his wavering, all his anticipation was just a joke. He had become the male lead in her video, the one being foolishly pursued. All of his defenses, which he had dismantled with his own hands, were rebuilt by her in the most brutal way. The wall was now taller and colder than before. He held his phone, a chill running through him. Ning Xiang finished printing the documents and walked out of the study, humming a tune. "All done, thank you." She saw the look on Gu Yan's face, and the smile froze on her lips. "What's wrong with you? Are you not feeling well?" Gu Yan didn't speak, merely turning the phone screen towards her. The glaring message was reflected clearly in her eyes. The color drained from Ning Xiang's face in an instant. She opened her mouth, but couldn't make sound. "Of all the things you've done," Gu Yan's voice was terrifyingly calm. "How much of it was real?" Ning Xiang's eyes reddened instantly. Tears, like pearls from a broken string, rolled down her cheeks in large drops. "It's not. Gu Yan, let me explain," she cried, reaching for his hand. Gu Yan violently shook her off. "Explain what?" he sneered. "Explain that my role as boyfriend was well played? That the fans were enjoying the sweet content? Ning Xiang, what do you take me for?" "I didn't." Ning Xiang sobbed out of breath. At the beginning, this whole project, it was just a random idea my best friend gave me to help me get over a breakup. She told me to find something to do to regain my confidence." Her voice was intermittent, filled with grievance. I did do a lot of things for the sake of filming the videos. But when I was with you, those performances had already become my habit. Those scripts had already become my true feelings. She choked on her sobs, barely able to form a complete sentence. As I was acting, I lost myself in the role. "Gu Yan, I'm an idiot. I don't know how to like someone. I only know how to treat you well in the only way I know how." Watching her cry so heartbreakingly, Gu Yan felt as if a hand was tightly squeezing his heart. The pain was intense. He wanted so badly to believe her. But the words neighbor boyfriend were like a poisoned thorn stuck in his reason, paralyzing him. He was scared of being the moth drawn to the flame once more, only to find out in the end that he was just a cold number in her data. "I am sorry." He finally uttered these two words, then turned and walked into the bedroom, shutting the door with a bang. He shut Ning Xiang and the cake she held in her hands outside the door. From outside the door came Ning Xiang's suppressed sobs. Ning Xiang's sobs, and her words looped in his ears like a magic spell. As I acted, I found myself falling into the role. Was this sentence genuine, or was it a more brilliant script? He couldn't tell. He only knew that he was in great pain. The pain of being fooled was far worse than that of a broken heart. The next day, Ning Xiang did not come. The third day, she did not come either. The doorway was unusually quiet. There was no longer the doorbell that rang on time, or the bento box that came with warmth. Gu Yan's life returned to its initial tranquility and was even deader than before. He thought he would be relieved, but he wasn't. He only felt an emptiness in his heart, as if a piece had been dug out. He began to unconsciously look at the tightly closed door opposite, expecting something, yet fearing something. He made a decision to escape. He submitted an application to the company for a long-term overseas assignment, the location in another city. He thought that as long as it was out of sight, it would be out of mind, and time would heal all wounds. He began to pack his luggage, folding his clothes and putting them in the suitcase, packing up the few books he often read on the bookshelf, organizing the documents on the table. Every movement was slow and methodical, yet it was as if he was fleeing from something. Ning Xiang still did not appear. No messages, no phone calls. She had really given up. Gu Yan stood in the empty room and gave a self-deprecating smile. Wasn't this what he wanted? She had given up, and he was free. But why did his heart ache so much? He dragged his suitcase and walked to the door. This would be the last time he walked out of this door. He took a deep breath, preparing to open the door. Just then, his foot touched something soft. He looked down and saw a white insulated bag lying quietly on the doormat. Gu Yan's heart skipped a beat. He bent down to pick up the insulated bag. It was slightly heavy in his hand. On the bag was a familiar sticky note. On it was Ning Xiang's handwriting, no longer a playful doodle, but just a line of words, written with some force, even a little crooked. I heard from my best friend that you don't eat properly when you're busy with work. This isn't for a video, it's just for you. Be careful on the road. No offense, no strategy, no neighbor boyfriend. Only the most simple concern. Gu Yan understood in an instant. He had never mentioned to Ning Xiang his habit of eating irregularly when he was busy with work. Where did she find out? It could only be Lin Feng. She had not come to disturb him again, but behind his back, she had quietly asked his friend, quietly preparing everything for him. She proved with her actions that those concerns had long surpassed the scope of the script. That sentence, as I acted, I found myself falling into the role, was true. He could no longer deceive himself. What was like? Perhaps it wasn't about fancy techniques or a perfect script. It was about remembering you don't eat sweets, remembering you have a weak stomach, remembering you forget to eat when you're busy with work. It was taking every word you said to heart. Ning Xiang's directness, her clumsiness, her embarrassing offensives. It turned out these were the only ways she knew how to express her love. She was like a piece of candy wrapped in a layer of choking mustard. He was afraid of sour, and even more afraid of spicy, but he had never imagined that beneath the mustard was such pure sweetness. And he, because he was afraid of that layer of mustard, had almost missed the entire piece of candy. Bang! Gu Yan threw the suitcase in his hand heavily onto the floor, making a huge noise. He didn't even have time to change his shoes before turning around and rushing to the door opposite, pounding on it with all his might. Ning Xiang! Ning Xiang, open the door. His voice was hoarse with urgency. A flurry of panicked footsteps came from inside, and the door was quickly opened. Ning Xiang stood at the doorway, her eyes red and swollen, her hair a little messy. She had clearly been up all night, too. Seeing Gu Yan, she froze completely, like a startled fawn. Gu Yan looked at her, his chest heaving violently. 1,000 words were stuck in his throat, but in the end, he only said something that surprised even himself. He was panting, his voice holding a hint of barely perceptible pleading about that. My business trip application. I've withdrawn it. Ning Xiang's eyes flew wide open, and tears welled up uncontrollably again. Gu Yan looked at her, his gaze unprecedentedly firm and gentle. He continued, also, today's bento. Could you save a portion for me? Ning Xiang bit her lip and nodded with effort, but the tears flowed even more fiercely. Gu Yan took a step forward and gently wiped the tears from her cheeks, his voice low and clear. Starting tomorrow,